Alright, so we're going to be looking at a game by Grainer today. This is a map on a match on Overpass on Premier mode. They do end up winning 13-6. Usually, I don't like these sorts of games where there's this much of a round difference, mainly because that implies that not as much work needed to be put in. Or I don't want to say that because obviously you have to work for each win, but you don't have to pull out the stops to try to go for a win. And by pulling out the stops, that's really when players either shine or when they crumble. And so I feel like that allows a bit more space, as well as, of course, there's more rounds. There's more things I can talk about, but regardless, it is what it is. This is the match we're dealing with. So we see just from the stats, according to Leadify, they do pretty okay. Just kind of across the board. If we delve into the match details, I like to particularly look. I'm going to mention the aim here. The entire lobby takes a little bit of time to damage. In CSGO, usually most people are around 500 to 600 milliseconds, but for some reason I've noticed on CS2, the average is like 600 to 700 milliseconds. So 700 is on the higher end of what I've been seeing recently. I would like to see a little bit lower, but that is mostly going to come with a bit better crosshair placement. Again, it's CS2. Overpass has a bunch of minor angle changes, so I don't want to be too strict on that. Utility, I'll mention it here. Use 4 flashes. I want to see more flashes. That's kind of the main thing that I saw when I was skimming through this. You have 4 flashes. None of them hit anyone. One of them actually ended up blinding your teammates. You buy 2 grenades, which is perfectly fine. Get 2 damage with it. It's whatever. Maybe use it for a smoke to like clear smokes. You buy 10 Molotovs, and you get, I think on the next page, we'll see you get about 90 Molotov damage, which is fine. Molotovs are really better at halting pushes. You're not going to be using it to get damage too much, but again, we'll see how you end up using them. Smokes, I mean, you buy 8 smokes. I don't like Leadify's statistic for this because it means nothing, but it's whatever. Yeah, we see you have 87 Molotov damage. Your damage across the board is pretty respectable. Trades, we see you're going for trades. That's about what I expect from your rank. You did say your Premier 9,000, almost 10,000. Your face at level 4 or 5, and you didn't say this, but I can see it here. Your rank here on CS:GO is MG2, and you are stacked with Link here. Not too much to say. Other than that, you do take 16% of opening duels. Link takes 47%. If you guys are 2 stacking, that's fine. I'm assuming like Link is entering and maybe you're right after trying to trade. I don't really know. I would like to see this number just a little bit higher, but ultimately this 47% is dragged up by the fact that you had 2 teammates who just never fucking entered. I personally would like to see at least 10% attempts across the board, but I understand that the matches are shorter, and so it's not necessarily as easy. Clutches, I just look at this briefly. It can kind of tell me if you're the last one alive a lot, and if you are, that means you're maybe baiting some. Like this fellow over here, he's 1v3, 1v4. He should probably be with this team a little bit more, but you're fine. 1v2, 1v2, 1v2. It's whatever. I would have loved to see one of these be won, but it is what it is. You do somehow win a 1v4, which does pad your stats here. Which I'm going to go ahead and move into. Again, these are just very rough Leadify stats. I just use it for a general picture, so don't take anything I say here as my actual input. It's just good as an insight. And we see here that your stats are really carried by these 3 rounds here. This one is your 1v4 clutch. It says it's an after plant, so that's good. And you have these 2 other rounds, which I assume you just had high kills, high impact kills, and the rest of the time you didn't really do all too much. In fact, it complains about your opening duels here, which just means you're dying a lot off rip, or I think maybe sometimes it'll think you had a chance for an opening duel, but you didn't take one. Don't quote me on that. But again, according to Leadify, it thinks you have kind of low impact on most rounds, again, other than these three. But I haven't looked at the demo yet, so we can go ahead and jump into that. All right, so as a bit of a warning, these demos are kind of fucked right now. They work generally well, but they do have some pretty glaring issues. You'll notice the grenades are kind of wobbly in the air. Sometimes players will just slide around like Link is doing right here. Sometimes animations are just fucked. So hopefully this is still watchable. It's really bad sometimes. We can go ahead and move to the first round. At the very least, I can at least make judgments on what you're doing. I just hope it's not too distracting if issues do come up. So we see you're buying armor here. Cool. Don't really have any complaints about that. No one on your team is buying utility. That's also fine. I know currently the meta is sort of shifting towards 1 or 2 CTs buying utility. But again, it's not something I'm too concerned about. It's still a pretty fresh meta, so it's hard to know how it's going to play out. Alright, so you guys get bombed down front bathroom here. And they do know you're here. They heard you running up. I'm happy you're aggressing a little bit here because your teammate has exposed himself. I wish I could hear your gun. I do know this gets turned into 1v2, and I do know you lose it, unfortunately. Just based off the Leadify stuff.
On my way to plant.
Alright, so I really like the ideas you had there. I think you should have just been a little bit more proactive. I know it's hard to know because, I can see through walls right now and you can't. It was just your teammate was fighting, back here. And you're just kind of doing the fighting by himself while you were in con. Let's see if I can find you again. It took a little bit to go up con here, that's fine. Of course, you don't want to get hurt. As soon as your teammate got bombed down, you could have been... Maybe, I think it would have been good to peek here, clear by divider. Just a quick jiggle, you don't have to commit too much to a fight. Because your teammate is more or less holding this angle, so you know that you probably won't get swung here unless they just wide swing you. In which case, that's just dumb as shit that they would ever do that. But that would really be the only way I could see that going wrong. And that way you would know that you have space to work with. You have time to work with it. If you know the divider's clear, you can more easily push up here. And if you know bomb is down, the only place they're really going to go with it is A site. It's not likely they're going to go back down con here because they know that A site's clear. Especially, they tried to pick up bomb again. It was right on this kill. I would like to have seen you push up, and you do. That's good. Pushing here towards front bath is okay. I could make a case for pushing divider here. Although obviously that would put you guys in a 1v1. Your teammate is 1v1ing long. You could get 2v1'd if this terrorist pushes up. Or, of course, if you push up divider, then your teammate can't really support. So it's kind of a risk. It's 2v2, so I do understand why you're playing like this. I don't like that you went back into con. Just kind of personal preference thing, because it does give up that space that the two of you kind of worked for. And, of course, bomb's able to make it up long. And you do recognize that to be a possibility. I think maybe just sitting here and just holding for a cross would have been good. The big thing I really don't like here is that as soon as he taps the bomb, you aggress up and you get punished for it, which is completely fair. But yeah, That's really the main thing, is just a tiny bit more proactive. I think you gave up a little bit too much space there, and then pushing the bomb here was definitely not the move. There's no reason for you to be full sprinting. But anyways, on to the next round. Also very annoying that I have to keep finding who it is because the buttons don't work properly. If you unbind the number buttons, then it doesn't go to the right people. Or if you rebind them. But anyways, that's just me complaining about the demo viewer. Back to the actual game. If you don't see any buy here, that's fine. I personally would like to see P250 here. It's only 300 bucks. If you get a kill, you get your money back, and you might even get an upgrade. If you don't get a kill, you can still buy on the next round. USP is pretty dog-ass. It's very dog-ass, especially since they got the bomb plants, you know, they're forcing. P250 is going to be your only chance there, but you died off rip anyway, so it's not, you know, it is what it is. You took a little bit too long to actually get up to swing that angle. If you've got someone who's swinging lower fountain here, then which Link was doing, so it's good that you were coordinating with him. But if you got someone swinging down there and you see that he's already leaving, you probably don't want to be taking the fight. But I understand that, you know, you can be tunnel visioned. I do it all the time. Like, you're still jumping up here, and even after that grenade, you're still committing to the fight, which is probably, I don't think that was the right call there. I think trying to fall back and trying to get that distance against those SMGs would have been better. Maybe you could fall back into the bathroom here and then maybe swing back, or maybe go long. I really don't like long on Overpass. I wouldn't recommend playing it ever. But there you might have had time to fall back to bathroom here, just to get a little bit of different angles, maybe a little bit more favorable. I know bathrooms is close range, so against SMGs it's a little weird, but you know, you'd have favorable fights against people up here, maybe a favorable fight against someone here, but of course the closer they get, the further back you want to be. I also understand that you don't really want to be leaving your teammate to die in connector, because, you know, if they kill you, they know they're just gonna hunt down connector. So I understand that concern there, but I think on pistols, it's either you group up together or you play as far back as you can to get that distance, at least against SMGs here. All right, so we get an M4 here, full utility. I like your utility kit. You don't buy a grenade, so perfect. Unfortunately, like I said, I do know you only use 4 flashes this game, so I'm going to be trying to look for places where I wish you used a flash. You don't necessarily have to take fights off of flashes. They're good at preventing a push, or just stalling for a push, really. So that flashbang lands too far. Let me see. I'll play it. I'll actually just go back to start of the round. That way I can fly around. So that flashbang lands up here. And so really the only person that's going to be hitting is your own team. I think it would have been good if you bounced it off of like the left side of this pillar here. And that way it's going to pop more or less right above secret. And that way your or not secret, right above toxic, and that way your teammate here, whoever decides to come on. If your teammate decided to fight toxic, then, well, I mean, right. If your teammate decided to fight toxic there, he wouldn't have been hit by that. And we did see the flash actually popped kind of in front of him. It's just the guy died, so it didn't do too much. I still think that given that you gave up so much space, you know, you threw the Molotov and then you tucked. They could be, you know, anywhere up to here really. And so having a flash that's a little bit further back, closer to where you are, is better, because that flash is so far ahead and you guys don't have enough control to really be taking advantage of that there. But so we can go back to wherever you are. So we see they're on short. This is a tough spot to be playing because there's not really anywhere to fall back. There's not really too many angles you can take. And the angles that you can take are very, very tight angles. They're better for like sniping. And we see here that like this angle, like you can maybe get a hit off, but with a rifle, you're really not going to be killing anyone here. You know, they're going to be crossed by the time your second bullet even comes out of the chamber if they're pushing. You are at an off angle, so another, I guess, downside is that they're not going to be stopping to clear this. Um, so while this would be good for a sniper in theory, it's a tougher angle for a rifle. If you wanted to actually go for a kill, I think it would be a little bit better to come up here on the concrete to the side. But again, I understand you do want the cover. It's just there's not too much to do once you fall back into cover. You just kind of have to wait for them to push up because it takes too long for you to really, if they're pushing up and if they're executing, you take too long to, not you, but your character takes too long to move to a useful spot, like towards the ramp. Um, that's fine. We do see you get a kill here. You swung a little wide, but you also didn't know that the enemy could be to the left here. Yeah, you did just kind of get traded. Not too much to say. So yeah, maybe I think ideally you would have cleared that just a little bit slower. Just take the time, just hold an angle, like hold. Oh my god, what the fuck is this mini map? There it is. Pause it now. All right, so you could have taken your time, maybe holding this angle here, just for a push, because your teammate was on toxic here, so your teammate doesn't have line of sight. It's blocked by the pillar. So now, personally, I would have not even recognized that during the game, so I'm not trying to be too harsh about it, but just kind of holding that angle for a little bit before swinging out further and taking this fight could have worked out a little bit better, especially because, like I said, you guys didn't really have control here. You know, with you down here, with you down here and your teammate not having a line of sight over anything, not even that, like over. Let me see. I'm trying to think of what your teammate actually had covered. He had that covered, and he had, let's say, like that covered. So you were down here, so you weren't adding too many new angles. You were kind of covering this area here, but in the time that you moved, you know, the enemies were able to move up. So this round in particular, it would have been good to just kind of be aware of what your teammate's doing here. But like I said, even me looking back, I don't think I would have even considered that in if I were in your position. Alright, so you have enough money for a full buy here. You might need to skimp on some utility. Probably gonna see a flash and a smoke, I hope. You could have even been dropped here. Money Moose has $5,000. So you should have been able to get utility here. So it's a bit of a tough spot because it's a bit of a tough spot to play because you don't have utility. Why am I hearing people running? Fucking demo, dude. Playing Toxic is a bit of a tough spot when you don't have any utility because you can't smoke any Molotovs that come off. You can't smoke to get out of a position. I think it's just good to have a smoke you can throw defensively there. I can actually make a note so I can show you one after this game in a private lobby. Alright. Let me just finish making the note and I'll comment on that. actually just take a look at that one more time. So I believe your barrel's sticking out right here. Just a little bit. No, you're fine. Okay. You just kind of got fucked, I'll be honest. um, sorry, really, I don't really have anything to say to that. Like, you didn't have utility. Even if you did, that was their entry kill. Um, maybe you could have had a bit of a more aggressive angle to hold a push, but at the same time, it's a 2v4 or 3v4. So I understand you not really being comfortable with it. I think ideally you should have been jiggling on this position. Instead of just sitting still, you just kind of swing out, hold it for like a second, and then swing back behind cover. Maybe hold this angle, and then go back behind cover, wait a second, and then swing back. And that way you have a chance at catching them off, because they're not going to be standing exactly where they expect you to, if that makes sense. Because they'll clear the angle, they'll think it's clear, and then you'll swing out, and hopefully you'll catch them off. That probably would have been the best course of action here. Again, since didn't have utility, so it's not like you can drop a defensive smoke to play around. You can't really use a flashbang to aggressively peek. So the best you can do is to try to, I don't want to say jiggle because that implies you're not committing to a fight, or it implies you're not holding an angle, but just kind of switching between angles a little bit, I think would have been good here.
Counter-terrorists win. Go, 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 knuckleheads.
I just want to comment. I'd be a little bit careful with the knives because they made the radius you can hear it really, really big on CS2. I don't know if it was like that on CSGO, but you'd be surprised just how much you can hear or how far you can hear the knives. I get it's a FIGD thing, but it you'd be very surprised. This spot here is I'm really not a fan of it. I mentioned this in one of the other demos that I've done. The problem with this spot here is that you don't have any control over anything. Like your teammate is fighting Toxic here. You know, he's essentially holding two angles at once. You can maybe get someone as they're like you're running out, but the thing is that if the enemy is kind of like hugging this wall here, they're able to like pick him off depending on how he plays. Um, might even be able to pick him off right here if they swing off. Might be able to pick him off on the left. And ultimately, once he dies, you have effectively given up sight because the furthest you can really push is here. And the problem with that is that you have absolutely no cover. You have nothing to play off of. You unfortunately don't have any utility here. This is another round you should have gotten a drop. Your teammate Muddy Moose has almost $4,000. Womack has almost $4,000 as well. There's no reason that you should not have any utility and that Shin here should not have a gun. A drop should have come through. Just try to be mindful of that. I know it feels terrible to be like, guys, I died. I need a drop for like 3 rounds in a row, but ideally you need to be having a gun on every round that you can. Obviously here it doesn't really matter too much because you guys are absolutely stomping them this round. They have acquired a good amount of money just because they've gotten 3 bomb plants, so they were actually able to buy here because of it. Yeah, anyways, this position, I'm really not a fan of it. I would never, ever put myself here intentionally. It's okay sometimes, but ultimately, it's so hard to retake from this position, again, especially without utility. You know, if you do need to retake, you can, you know, throw a flash off here, throw a flash from over here. Maybe you can throw a smoke to cover off, you know, a smoke here, so you can kind of cover off sight lines like that. Or maybe you can throw a smoke here, so you can cover off sight lines from like right there, or not right there, but you can cover off like those sight lines. You know, if you had a Molotov, you can bounce one off the pillar here and deny a plant. A grenade, of course, could do the same thing. If you do have a Molotov, you could maybe squeeze out one to slow a push here if your teammate is expecting something. Again, that's if your teammate's expecting something. This spot, I think the only time I'd ever willingly put myself here, and a time that's not a retake, is if I personally am expecting that I will have to rotate up to A soon. In that case, I think if instead of playing here, I generally think it's going to be better to go to Heaven, just because of it opens up a bit more aggressive angles for you to be taking. So obviously, didn't really matter this round, so it's okay. That's again, not again, but that's another problem. That spot's a little iffy because you just kind of rotate half the round. You know, you rotate up to A, then you rotate back down, rotate back up, and so you kind of left your teammate alone there. So happy you got the kill, but you don't really want to be trying to do that in 1v1s. I wish the demo showed how far the knives can be heard. It's very impressive. It probably, if you were to knife right here and hit a wall, it would probably go out to right about here. Got the goofy flashbang. I think it'd be better to throw a flash over top here. That flash is super obvious, and because it lands inside the tunnel, because it lands inside, like the tunnel kind of serves as cover for it. If you throw it over top, they're less likely to be looking for it because they're just looking at the tunnel, as well as it's not blocked by any like concrete or any map geometry, you know, so it's gonna be able to hit them most of the time. It's a little difficult to know sometimes where to throw it, because if you just left click it, it's gonna land like up here and not really do a lot. So you kind of have to throw it a little bit high so that you're able to hit back here. I think they did change the thing here so it covers a little bit more, but I still think it's better to throw stuff over top. Why do you hear so much shit over here, dude? Jeez, always.
Throwing flashbang. Deploying flashbang. Incendiary out.
Alright, so they've heard you rotating up. They're still interested in going for this. At least one of their players is. You've been loud the whole way. And now they know that you're here. So if they're smart, they should rotate down. Unfortunately, like I said, I know from Leadify you lose your 1v2s. That's unlucky. And you weren't really looking at anything there. This timing, it's whatever, it's just unlucky. But when you moved, it's kind of like right here where you're like, God damn it, I hate myself for doing that. And the entire time, it gives this guy time to push up, and you're not looking anywhere meaningful. You're kind of setting up to maybe peek here, but that's not your concern if you're behind sight. Your concern's going to be long. Unfortunately, you just whipped the spray, but whiffing the spray is what it is. Let me see. Did you have any utility there? I don't think so. You had a smoke and a grenade as well. Grenade, I won't even consider it as a factor here. I'm just thinking about how you could have used the smoke. Again, I understand you don't want to pull it out in 1v2s, 1v1s. Try to avoid pulling out nades. At least unless you have information about how far they are. So let me just double check where you guys were aware someone was. And see if throwing a smoke was something that was meaningful here. So you lost someone close up front. And so you didn't know long was a thing. And they also heard you were here, so I'm not sure. Yeah, so this guy is looking here. I think what I would have done here is gotten to cover a little bit sooner and either smoked long or thrown a defensive smoke. Maybe throw, I don't know about throwing one right here, because that gives them a little bit too much space. I think smoking long would have probably been good here because then you would have been able to swing out. Um, you would have been swing out and take a fight more comfortably here against someone on headshot. And you did have plenty of time to throw that. Again, I understand you don't really know where he is. So taking out a smoke is a little risky there. But if you know exactly where one is, it's a gamble that you could consider taking if you know exactly where one is, because what you can do is you can isolate that fight immediately, the best you can, because they heard you were on site, so they knew you were there, and so they might not be expecting you to be taking that fight. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say. So, anyways, next round, find you again.
Come on, move it, son. Flashbang. Throwing flashbang. Deploying flashbang.
I believe they made this jump spot a lot louder too.
Flashbang.
You go to this spot again. I think going here is okay. Well, that was that maybe wasn't smart for Link. Especially because you are here with a Deagle, no armor. Again, you have two teammates. Come on, you have two teammates. They have 3,500, 3,400. I believe these two are queued, but come on, they have money. I hope you at the very least ask for a drop, from them, because you would have been able to get body armor. Fuck head armor. You don't need it. You would have been able to get body armor, a drop, and maybe a couple flashes if you wanted to keep your money more or less above 2,000. But like two of your teammates bought down here, so you saving is not really. I don't want to say playing with the team, but it's kind of what I want to say. Like your money isn't quite on the same page. Like you're saving this round, but two of your teammates have bought. Um, so next round's money is going to be a little bit iffy depending on how this one goes. I think I started saying this as well before I got cut off by Link dying. This spot, I think I know I mentioned it earlier. I think this is maybe I really don't like this spot, but considering you spotted someone, this is maybe like the safest place you can be, because what you don't want to have happen is I hate this fucking map.
Flashbang out.
Can I get it to pause, please? All right. Well, what you don't want to have happen is in the time where you peek and you spot someone and they're coming through here, you don't want to be caught on the cross here. So if you do see someone, either you're going for spams to get some damage off, or you are trying to cross and get to a safer location. Maybe not safer, but you're trying to get to a more aggressive location where you have control. I think that would have been very important here, considering you lost your teammate that had a gun. Um, he had a M4, full kit of utility. They die with essentially their knife out. So right there, that seems also like a miscommunication where you spotted someone and maybe a Link didn't know in some capacity that it's possible that they were right there. So he just kind of seems like he ran in there with more or less his knife out. Wasn't really ready for that. Like, obviously, he threw the flash, so he did seem aware, but I don't think he seemed aware that they could have been that close. Now you're stuck here. Deagle, no armor. No utility. You have a teammate up in heaven, so you could be able to push up. You do get a very nice shot, though. Fucking grenade float AK away. That sucks. I think the sound of the water is a client-side bug. I don't think it's a server-side bug, so I haven't really commented on it. I have noticed that in my own games. You hit another very good shot there. I hope you get a gun soon, though. I think you might have been able to see the shadow. It's tough. Good on you guys for playing for time. That's just a good 3-piece. And I believe that was one of the rounds where Leadify was like, "Oh my god, you did so good." I don't think Leadify would have said you did as good if you had a drop. Ideally, you should have one there. There were very, very good deagle shots, and I don't think you would have had those kills as cleanly had you had a A4 or A1, because of course you would need to hit him twice. I would have liked to see you try to get a weapon there. I know you were creeping around trying to find one, but it seemed like after a bit you just kind of gave up, even after you spotted and confirmed the location of a couple. That can be a risky thing going for guns, because obviously the enemy team knows that those guns are down, and so if they're playing it smart, or if they have the resources, they're going to be trying to protect those. So like this gun here probably would have been able to grab safely. The gun up by that was kind of like on site that got blown away. I think that was maybe the one that got moved up, but this gun down here definitely could have been able to might have been able to grab. But happy you picked one up regardless. Don't really want to be in spawn that long, especially if you have been the kind of B anchor. Have been 20 seconds and you aren't really anywhere meaningful yet. I don't like that you're running with your gun out there, mainly because you've gotten here so late. You kind of want to be a little bit more cautious when that happens. Also, it's going to be better if when you jump up, if you kind of jump up at a diagonal angle, you get a little bit of extra visibility over this concrete if you do it right. But ultimately, what's more important is that if you get seen immediately, you won't get spammed through the wall immediately. Obviously, it's lucky you haven't, but if you're jumping just straight up and down, like you are behind this wood panel for a second. Meanwhile, if you jump diagonally, you're only behind this panel on the jump up. On the come down, you're completely safe. So it just makes you a little bit safer. Again, kind of the downside of that is you're going to be making a little bit more noise. Like they'll hear you. You're going to land on the propane tank, which has a metal thunk instead of the sandbags here. So it's just something to keep in mind. They'll know that you are jumping differently if they're conscious about that noise. You have to aim a little bit lower on that. Obviously, you saw next, right? But that area is lowered by about half a foot. You aren't in cover at all here. I know there's a smoke down, but at least you should be trying to cover your body where you can. Like it would have been better. I fucking hate this demo. Not the demo, the map. It could have been good if you played behind the truck and used that as cover. Instead, you're kind of pushing through, and you're completely in the open when you're fighting that guy, when he could have been behind at least a little bit of cover. You wouldn't have taken as much damage. Now it's just peeking when the smoke was not completely down. Also, your teammate did 45, 50 damage to you with a nade, which sucks ass. I don't know what the fuck he's thinking, but whatever. It's not really something that's in your control.
Counter-terrorists win.
Alright, so don't have any utility here. Seems like you might be getting some. Okay, there it is. It's a little bit for it to come in.
Throwing fire.
Gotta love the demo viewer. The other team has a really weird buy here. They have two people who could have, or should have been able to buy. They didn't. But we're not here to talk about them. This is a really tough spot. Obviously, as you saw, this is a tough spot to be pushing up, because by peeking up here, like, your head is exposed to like all those angles at once. If you're peeking this late into the round, it's good to kind of lob a flashbang off the concrete here, and so it'll come over and it'll land, more or less it'll land right about here. And that way you can take this fight a little bit more aggressively. Even if they do turn away, like, they're still turned away. So if they're out in the open, they're a sitting duck. And you can use the time where they're turning back to actually put your crosshair on them. Yeah, mainly that pretty much happened just because it took you so long to get here. And so you were playing it as if you just got to the bomb site at the start of the round instead of getting to the bomb site 20 seconds into the round. It's kind of unfortunate.
These fellas are gonna regret waking up this morning. Flashbang. Grenade out.
Your teammate has $5,000. He could have dropped you an SMG. That way you wouldn't have had to buy anything here. Maybe you could have squeaked by with armor. There's a good off angle you were trying to play there. Obviously the downside is you're exposed to a lot at once, but it's a good off angle. Good pick up for UK too. So unfortunately, I do know you lose it. Don't know what you're doing there. I mean, they hear you coming up, but it's kind of a weird thing.
Diffusing.
All right. I feel like there's a little bit to unpack there. Sort of these last few rounds, it sort of felt like you're kind of lost a little bit of focus on the game. It started a little bit with kind of like the fucking around and spawn with the weapons. Then you were coming up, you had the deagle. You know, it's a 1v2. You know, you don't want to be making that sort of noise. Like, making footsteps is a little bit different, but starting the deagle there is a little weird. And then you kind of ran up and you had your knife out. That's strange to me that it's okay that you didn't tap it. Obviously, like, I'm sure you know that the quote-unquote meta for Overpass is you tap the bomb, you wait for someone to peek you, you know, divider or front bathroom, and then you defuse it. you didn't have a kit, so that round was a little bit more lost. It's still definitely winnable though. So the fact that you were playing it like that um, isn't something I'm a huge fan of. I wish that it didn't play out like that. But I'm hoping that you're able to kind of start to focus up a little bit. At least again, that's kind of how it's come across to me. So you do have enough for barely a full buy here. I do understand if you don't want a full buy because next round is the last. However, you have, again, your team has a lot of money. It's fine. Maybe could have gotten a flashbang or two. Would have been good. That way you'd still be above 2,000. But again, you haven't really used any flashes this game. Weird use of the Molotov, I think. Like, sure, kind of Molotov that area. But it didn't really have much of a purpose aside from just being used. Again, I'm not really sure where you'd use it outside of that. I think on the eco, getting 2 flashes would have been better. Because you could have used the flash to sort of take the space here and then push up. You could even use the flash to help your teammate push up. You could have thrown one over like this, kind of like where this one popped. Or if you wanted to take the fight here in water, you can throw a flashbang over here. That could work. It's not as good here because they're fighting through a tunnel and there's a good chance they're elevated, which means even if they're blinded, like, you're still shooting at toes anyway. Could have even been good to try to push all the way through. Again, especially because it is an eco, so you can kind of fuck around and do some interesting things here. To try to get an advantage. If you guys push through, I think you would have actually seen the bomb is down in spawn. That you could have played off of it. Yeah, it's down right there. You did have a kill here, so you guys knew that you had possession. It seems like your teammate killed him and saw a bomb. I think pushing through would have been good. You guys win the round anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Again, it's an eco, so like, who cares that much? But definitely a couple things you could have done a little bit differently. Alright, so they are forcing here. They're doing like their one and only thing. Their one and only B rush, and you're not ready for it. You've been playing in pit, which it's a nice spot. It's a safe spot. The thing is, you can't really stall for time in pit. I mean, you can creep around the corner and kind of play this corner here, but you can't really fall back anywhere. It's kind of the same sort of problem that Toxic has, except Toxic has the added benefit of being able to fall back into pit and then being able to play pit. Happy you got the Molotov off. Smoke was okay. Might have been better to throw that smoke a little bit earlier. And then you crouched and committed to a fight. You didn't know they had pistols, but crouching is kind of a death sentence. Because you're essentially declaring, I'm taking this fight and I'm not moving, which means you're a very easy target. And unfortunately for you, they had pistols, and that means they will happily take an easy stationary target, and they will happily run in circles, and you do get punished for it. If you're expecting that you're going to be pushed like this, you don't want to be crouching and standing still. You want to be doing as mobile as possible. Like I said, playing this corner would be great because you can kind of peek out and then you can rapidly fall back behind cover. Then you can peek out a different angle very quickly and keep playing around it instead of crouching right here and just dying to someone coming up. But that is the end of the half. Now we'll see how you do on T side. And in the meantime, I'll kind of stew in my head about that CT side for some remarks towards the end of this this review. You see, you guys are going full armor. This nip guy here is going utility. For some reason, this guy doesn't fucking buy armor or utility, which is stupid as shit. But I guess he's popping off, so let the man cook. We got Womack here with gliding. Fucking shenanigans. These guys are more or less playing together, which is perfect. You do have a teammate kind of AFK by connector. I'm happy you got the kill, but again, this kind of goes back to something that I mentioned only once on CD side. Being behind cover is great, especially like that guy was behind cover. You know, he was behind. You know, only his head was peeking, and you were just kind of standing out here in the open. So for him, he had your whole ass body to be shooting at, and you just had to shoot at his head. So if you do have your whole ass body that he's trying to shoot at, what you can do is you can kind of move around a lot and take advantage of that, especially because you have the pistol. So you can move around a lot, you have high mobility, and so you can make yourself harder to hit in other ways if you're not behind cover. Because for him, if he wants to take a fight, his only option is peeking his little head out. And you know exactly where he's peeking his little head out because it's the only place that has cover. Now he could. It's very fucking stupid if he did it, but if he could just, you know, peek out and expose his entire body. Again, that would make him a lot easier of a kill because he doesn't have as much space to be moving around in. So if you are taking a fight and you don't have cover, the least you can do is make yourself as hard to hit as possible. We'll see if you end up getting anything else done this round, though. It is more or less one. It's 5v3. You guys have bombed down. They have no kits. Perfect trade. No comments, really. I would love to see some utility here. Just a single flash. There it is. Oh, that works. Smoke as well. You get hit armor, which is good. You have an AFK teammate, which... Okay, well, he's back. If he's AFK for a while, then I kind of want to be playing the round a little bit differently, but we don't have to talk about that. They decided to do a B stack, so Link gets 2 kills. You guys are scaling up long. Your teammate's already like 20 feet away from you, and you're still clearing the same angles more or less. It's a little bit better to stay closer to him. Making the noise is not good, but you know, you can pistol out or knife out to get a little bit closer. Especially if you know, if when you guys were passing bathrooms there and he cleared it, you know the bathroom's gonna be cleared for more or less for, you know, a couple seconds while you get up. So that there was something I mentioned. I think I mentioned it in the improvement chat where you shot before your crosshair was on him, or like you knew the crosshair was on him. You know, that was a moment where you shot because you recognized there was someone and not because your crosshair was on someone. Now you didn't really have the, I guess, space there. And by that I mean like when you were taking the fight, you didn't give yourself a wide enough angle to be able to do that. You know, as he passed, you know, he was already completely gone by the time you reacted and had a bullet off. That's perfectly fine. You can still make things happen with that. But if you just had the trigger discipline there, you're able to do a lot of you afford yourself a lot of options. Didn't matter here because it's a 1v4 and so he lost it anyway. But if you do manage to get into a position like this where they aren't sure where you are and the round is a lot closer, say it's a 2v2, say it's a 2v3, just having that trigger discipline there, holding a tighter angle where you know you're not going to hit something, but you still get the information. Because what's great about holding an angle that's tight like this, especially in a spot that's as weird as this, is there is no way they're going to be pre-firing this or pre-aiming this even. They might be just, looking up the ramp, but as soon as they're passing this spot here, their focus is going to be shifting to up top. So even if they see you and you don't react, you still have this off angle. You still have this very weird fight for them to be taking. So either they see you and you have the advantage because you both know what side they're on. He's going to be swinging out from right here. So you can move a little bit more to the left, you can move a little bit more to the right, make yourself harder to hit. You also, you're prepared for him to swing, so you are able to use that just to your advantage. Or if they don't see you, then you're able to push up behind, maybe knife him, get a bunch of money. Maybe you are able to sneak past them. If he walks up the ramp here, you can sneak down to B without making any noise. In theory, I think that's everything I want to say about that, though. But you're able to afford yourself a lot more options if you decided to not shoot there. Happy you got it, but you didn't have to announce your presence if you didn't have to. Okay, so here, full utility, full armor, perfect. You guys have plenty of money. I believe, if I remember from Leadify, they only win one more round. So you guys are kind of steamrolling on the rest of this. So you guys aren't close enough to be doing anything there. It sucks that you got your teammate, your second teammate. Your teammate was super aggressive, pushing up, and you're still like sitting back here. And while he was maybe dead anyway, there's a chance that with both of you being there, both of you can get out alive, or if one of you dies, the other one's able to trade. So the first death, it's whatever. That second death was totally preventable, though. If you had just been either you or the other teammate that was with you, Muddy Moose is their name. If either of you were pushed up, then I think that was preventable there. Happy you get a second, though. That's always good to bring it back to even. I believe this is the 1v4 that you end up winning, so you do get an ace here. You are playing it pretty well. You have a full utility, so this is perfectly winnable. Sometimes if you were to have an AK, this amount of health and no armor, it might be good for the save, but you're on a roll. You got four kills. So right now, I'm trying to think what the enemy's thinking. So they know you smoked long. They know that you just got a kill in bathrooms. They know you're maybe about half HP. And they know that you're somewhere by long. So thinking that, why the fuck is the other guy going down to B? Whatever. Maybe I'm just gonna let him cook in the meantime. Is he any good at the game? He's okay. He's their middle frag.
I planted the bomb.
Playing it safe, cool. Still full utility. It's bad angle because they can see your shadow. I think that's what you noticed there. They can still kind of see your shadow here. Okay, well that was just lucky. Oh no, that was just the fucking Molotov being weird. Alright. Let me just see that last kill again. I was just gonna say they can kind of see your shadow here. Not what it's meant by that is not from this ramp here, but if he went behind you, he'd be able to see the shadow first and know that you're here. Just because, actually, it's a little bit weird because of this. I think maybe your head would have been poking out. Actually, what am I doing? I can just fucking fly. Yeah, your head's poking out. If you are holding that angle, try to be either more in the shadow or close to the wall. A little bit lucky to get him there, mainly because you were noisy, and I didn't hear him make any step. But all in all, good, very good 1v4 clutch. Nothing I really would have done much differently. The Molotov there, I don't think was very necessary, but it does isolate a fight. Does at least block it off. So yeah, nothing to say there, unsurprisingly. I mean, it's a 1v5 clutch, 1v4 clutch. You really only get those if the other team messes up a bunch. And I'm happy that you also seem to have focused up some here. And like I mentioned earlier that it seemed like you lost a little bit of focus, and so I'm happy to see that back. Or at least the illusion of it back. Or maybe it was never gone. So as I'm sure you saw with the Molotov, probably would have been better to bounce it off this wall here. It blocks them from pushing. And you can push up, you can scale up a little bit off of that. It worked. The Molotov worked functionally for what you were trying to do, but it's really hard to get any meaningful utility off this wall anymore, mainly because of just where you're throwing it. It's going to bounce up off the wall, and so it's going to bounce up into this. So I think that's really like the main reason I think why they added that there, is to prevent utility being thrown off. Should have seen him there. I don't know why there's no reaction, but we did in fact see him there as you jumped. His whole head's just exposed. And you guys knew he was in there, so there's a good chance he's gonna be trying to get this 8K. Maybe he does. Now it's a 3v3, so you guys want to be playing this smart. There's a flank coming in. We're aware of it. Okay, so there... Ideally, I think you would have been with your teammate on site, protecting for him. I think based off the comms, you guys sort of knew that there was going to be no one rotating up from B. But I think grouping up with your teammate on site would have been a little bit better than playing this angle here. Your teammate did kind of let him through, but that sort of sort of goes with just kind of being mindful of what your teammates are doing, and playing off that just a little bit more. You guys were 2 stacking, so you do have a unpredictable teammates sometimes. But I say that because I know it's a little difficult sometimes to know for sure what your teammates are up to. And of course, you can't just be staring at the minimap the entire time. So with that flashbang that you threw right here off this wall, it hangs out in the air for so long, and it's right in front of them that it's probably one of the easiest flashes that they can dodge. Sometimes the point of a flash is to get them to dodge, and that gives you time to get into that space. Um, but if the goal of that was to full white someone, excuse me. If the goal of that was to full white someone, that's not really a good flash to be throwing. You could throw one over this wall here. I believe just a jumping right click works perfectly fine. And that way it's a little harder to dodge because it's just so high. The issue with the one that you threw here is if someone's in connector, they're going to be beneath it. Or they just have the ground itself is blocking it because they're more or less beneath it. Yeah, anyways. Bit of a weird smoke. I understand. I think the goal was to smoke bathrooms. You did play off the smoke very well. So maybe it's meant as a defensive smoke. Does give you a surprising amount of room. So I will give you credit for playing around that in a smart way. Very, very tiny thing here on that peak that you had. And that's that you peaked very close to the corner. The downside of that is that your whole body is exposed for if he's swinging out from, front truck here, like they can see your body beforehand. They have just a fraction of a second faster time to react. Didn't happen here, but this guy, if he swung out truck right here, like he can see your whole ass and you can't even see him. And that's really the downside of swinging close to the angles. Ideally, you're a little bit further away, and that means that time difference of time that they can see you before you can see them is a little bit less. So like I said, very minor thing. You weren't punished for it because they weren't peeking, but a little bit of pathing corrections would help just a little bit. As you can see here, this angle is not, I don't think it's as good anymore, holding toxic, or not toxic, garbage, because that opera was able to swing up behind it and you were none the wiser. You really, excuse me. You can really only see them if they are like pushed up close against the box, which again, ideally they don't do for them because the closer you are to the angle, the more your body that is exposed. Throw the same flash again. As you saw from the lead flash stats, it doesn't actually do anything. Throw the same flash again. I said it can be good. I think it gives this guy in bathroom a little bit of a weird fight. Or not a weird fight, potentially advantageous fight. I go with this guy here. To be able to comfortably push out and take a fight up here. So you do want to be mindful that your teammates are aware that it's a very good chance, because this gives them comfort. It's a good defensive smoke for you to take space. The downside is that it's actually giving the enemy team a lot of space, and it's isolating angles for them. So it's kind of working against them. Um, I genuinely think here that just smoking up bathroom is going to be better for you. Just in so many more scenarios. Maybe a divider smoke would be a bit better depending on what you're trying to do. But I think smoking off bathroom to isolate this, smoking this off to isolate this kind of quadrant here. I wish, God, I wish these fucking mini map was better. Just getting this quadrant isolated is more important. And then what you can do is you can throw a flashbang that's gonna pop, right around here, and that way you guys aren't flashed while you're trying to take the fight, but they are. Now we have this space more or less here. I get why you're throwing this defensive smoke because it's blocking vision off from someone by divider, that sort of region. You don't. I don't get why you're left clicking it. I think a right click would work perfectly fine, and it'll land more consistently in the same spot if you're right clicking it. The problem with left clicking it is that you're giving it a lot more speed. Even though you threw that smoke, you did seem kind of a little oblivious that there could have been someone in bathroom there. So you do have bomb here. I'm happy you noticed it, because your teammates are nowhere near you. I don't really like that you're pushing up bathrooms alone with a bomb. It's okay, because you guys now know that they have an auto shotgun on site, so you won't get pushed, or not pushed. You won't get he won't swing you on site because he has an auto shotty, so it's a very disadvantageous fight. But now you've died. You drop bomb here. This was a 2v4, and now it's a 1v2, and I don't know who wins it. I'm assuming, yeah, this is the last round that they win. So, I think you just stayed with your teammate there. Your team there in general, instead of going alone. You spend a little bit too long in connector there with bomb. And so you were able to get flanked with that. They already attempted to flank once, and you guys were able to shut it down. There was someone who pushed through connector there up into playground. So you were able to shut it down. So that should have alluded to you guys that they know that the entirety of your flank is not well covered. That it's loose enough that they're able to push through, and so that's what they did there. They were able to catch you off. I think that this round in particular was the one that you mentioned in the Discord message. You're like, I died with a bomb like once or twice, and you're like, yeah, I know it's bad. Yeah, should have been with your teammate there. If not, just all the way up on site. As soon as you knew it was an auto shotgun, you could play it a little bit more aggressively because you know, at least on the banana side, the bathroom side. I don't know how I feel. Okay, so the thing with the connector push is that you know they're broke. They saved an auto shotgun from last round. You know, maybe they upgraded to AKs, but going connector when an auto shotgun could have been on the board, maybe not the smartest thing to be doing here. At least the auto shotgun wasn't here, but you still died to more or less the same thing. You know, a close range weapon. You also had the AK, and so you have what's essentially the more valuable weapon. It could have been better if Link was pushing forward because his weapon's a little bit weaker, and so you could kind of bait him if you expect him to die. Like I said, obviously you don't want your teammates to be dying. You don't want to be baiting your teammates, but if you're going for a fight and you are expecting that someone is going to die, ideally it's not the person with the best gun. Unfortunately, no, I think you guys do end up winning this round. It's 3v5. All right, so let me take a moment. I'll collect my thoughts, and I'll be back in a private lobby to showcase a couple things for you. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, and I'll start by just going over a couple utility options that you have available to you that I think would be good to have. So the main thing I want to say for B site is you have a lot of defensive smokes that you can do. So you can just kind of throw one. It's kind of right here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It gives you a lot of room to play around. Depending on how it lands, you can actually peek over it a little bit. Or you might have a gap over here on the left side. But ultimately, the idea of a defensive smoke is it gives you new and unique angles to be playing around while also giving you cover. So you know that in an ideal world, no one's going to be pushing you through a smoke, you know, especially in CS2 with how smokes are. It's very easy to get lost in them. So ideally, no one's really going to be pushing you. And if they are pushing you, they're very likely to make noise. And so you can just move over and, you know, it's like shooting fucking ducks or whatever, like the fucking Olympic sport duck hunt. Or I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. So you can throw a defense smoke on the left side. You can throw one maybe on the right side like this. This one isn't as good just because I feel like it gives them a little bit too much comfort. But it just gives, like I said, the point is it gives you space to move around. You can play an off angle here on short and be relatively safe for monster. Those are the main two I like using. There's a couple kind of funky ones. Like, honestly, you can just throw a smoke somewhere and just play off of it. You can even play off of some of their smokes. But like this one here, for example, you don't have to worry as much about them pushing out short if you have someone that's kind of holding this here. So they, you know, they can hold the short cross while you can focus on this. But really, the thing about defensive smokes is that they're kind of super easy to throw, and you don't need to be too perfect with them. I had one on CSGO where you just kind of throw one like this. And that way you have a lot more obvious of a gap here. Now, of course, on CS2, one-ways aren't as much of a thing. They're geometric one-ways and not bullshit game mechanic one-ways. But anyways, I mentioned also there's a flashbang. You can just kind of throw it off like this. And so it'll land up here. Depending on, you know, where your teammate is, maybe that's a really bad one to be throwing. But you just kind of... Oops. It pop there. You can also throw one off like the left side here. That'll pop if you have a teammate toxic. That'll pop up here and it'll pop in cover. And that one's super loose. You just want to be aiming it towards the left side because the more right it is, the more likely it's going to bounce straight back at you. That just gives you a couple more options depending. So I stop full whiting myself. A couple more options depending on where it's landing, where you can flash things that aren't as easy to see. So, you know, if you're expecting to be pushing up, you can throw this sort of flash, and they'll have to turn. I mentioned here, the jump peeking, you just kind of jumped up and down. You can jump a little bit more to the side, but also, like I said, you're either going to land on concrete or going to land on this. So it has a much different sound. So, like, obviously this one's quieter. So that's the trade-off, is that you can't peek off on the side here without being louder. And you just have a little bit more height here. But of course, the main advantage is that as soon as you're visible, you're already behind cover. Other than your head, of course. But right here, if you're up here, oops, if you're up here, your body's behind wood, and so you have to fall back down and then move out of the way. And during that whole time, they can spam you. Also mentioned, you can just kind of throw some flashes over here. They don't have to be too perfect. I said this, I believe this has changed, so the flashes won't be as good. But you can kind of lob some flashes over, and honestly, as long as they're further back, like if they're up here, like they're gonna get hit by almost any flash you throw. If they're further back down here, they might not, just because they have that. But Um, I think it's a little bit better than trying to get one through the tube. Because when he threw, it kind of landed right by the end. And so some people, they're able to just use the geometry to block it. Or like if they're up here, like they hear a flash, they just move behind cover, and it's a non-issue for them. Especially because down here, it's bouncing a bunch, so... Other thing, I didn't really see a lot of T-side utility. I know half of that is because the T-side was like 6 rounds long. I would like to see a little bit more. On that note, you threw this kind of bizarre fucking smoke. I can't even throw it. You threw this bizarre kind of one-way, or not one-way, defensive smoke here. That's more or less where it was, where it gives you some interesting fights here where you can kind of one-way this. You can kind of scale up to con and be safe. But I just think it's going to be better if you smoke bathrooms. That way you won't get pushed from bathrooms. I don't have the kill smoke command. I apologize. But that way you don't get killed by bathrooms. This is a very disadvantageous smoke for them to be pushing. Because when they push it, they're exposed to 180 plus degrees at once. Meanwhile, the smoke that you had here, they're able to push through and kind of play off the smoke. They can even push around this side and get some cheeky damage, or maybe not even damage, but just get a kill here, or do some weird things with it. This is, honestly, I think it's better as a CT defensive smoke than a T side. That's one I think could be doing differently. I don't know a divider smoke off the top of my head, but I'm sure this is going to be good enough. That way you won't get peeked from here, and that way you've isolated this like entire section. And then if you want to, either you or someone else can just kind of throw a flashbang like this. It'll pop over here. If you're close to the wall, it won't hit you. You want to throw one a little bit further. That one you can peek all the way out with. Or maybe if you want, you can have a flashbang thrown like off this. That one landed a little low, but you can throw some different flashes that will keep this space without needing to use this weird smoke here. And I know it might seem a little strange because you're using a smoke and a flashbang here, but I think if you are using this smoke that lands here, that using a flashbang is going to be beneficial anyway. You guys never really went long, but you can just kind of left-right click a flash here, and that'll land above you guys. It has a little bit of a high air time, so like they will probably see it, and they're far enough back that it might not even hit them too much, but it will hit them, and so they will reposition off of it. You know, just kind of throw some flashbangs over. I would like to see a couple more flashes. Is kind of what it's boiling down to. I'll show this one because I've shown it. Oops. I can pick that back up. Yep. You guys never really needed it because you didn't really take B, but if you want to have in smoke, you just line up in this corner and just aim anywhere along this cable here. Don't aim close to this, whatever that is, but anywhere along this bottom, and it's going to land in heaven, as you can see here. Like I said, if you aim too far to the right, it lands outside. But anywhere to the left, it's going to land inside, and it's going to cover it for you. So that's just a good thing to know. I don't know any fucking A-site smokes on CS2 because the only one I did throw is now blocked off because Valve are assholes. The last thing I think I want to say is the CT side impact was not that good. You did have the Deagle round, where it shouldn't have even been as impactful of a round. It only looked impactful because you had a Deagle. But you could have had a drop, and so it would have just been a regular round if you had a gun there. You spent several rounds on CT side just kind of playing in this back area here. And while it's okay, you really can't do too much here. You know, if you want a Molotov short, you have to swing out into the open for it to be meaningful. And even then I fucked it up. I knew I was going to fuck it up. You have to swing pretty far out for a Molotov to be meaningful here, or a smoke, similarly. If you want to smoke sight, you really can't smoke anything meaningful here. You can kind of smoke this, but that gives them a lot of room. If you want space to cross, you could, you know, throw a smoke kind of like this, and that way you can peek up here and work on clearing towards sight. But there's really not a lot of options there. I personally love playing Toxic. It's like my favorite spot. It's like I said, you can throw some defensive smokes and play around it. You can fall back pretty easy most of the time to playing angles here. You were playing a tight angle like this. I think it's better if you just stand up top here. And that way you can kind of use this lip here as well to make your head really hard to hit if you're jiggling on it. Obviously, your aim will take a hit, but because you are the one moving, you control. You're controlling your own camera by moving, so you can more easily accommodate for it. I mentioned if you are stuck back here, you do have some, like, you know, basic fucking things you can throw. Doesn't even have to be pretty. You can. Like, I'm making this shit up on the fly. There's a couple flashes you can kind of throw off this wall, I think. But like, there's a grenade for short, something like this. I mean, there's one here where if you throw it like this, it'll spread down and it'll cover this area. But you've got options, you know. You don't have to be dry, not even dry peeking. Well, I guess that is what it is. You don't have to be taking fights without any utility. I saw a lot of that on CT side, a little bit on T side too, but like I said, didn't get to see as much T side. I think you can also jump peek this spot. It's not as good, but where is it? I think it's right there. Yeah, you can jump peek off of this and get a little bit of vision. Another thing I like to do is you can blow open the door. For pretty much anywhere on site, you can blow open the door and you can jump peek it. You can also see it from back here on Heaven if you're jump peeking. You can kind of see into connector and see if there's any toes coming up. Not that you really played Heaven. I don't think there's too much else I want to say. I'm thinking. I'll share a couple more things as little nuggets of knowledge. If you want to take B site and you want to like Molotov Toxic, you don't have to do whatever the fuck this lineup is back here. If you have water control, you just aim to the left of the pillar. You gotta run. Forgot about that part. Just aim to the left of the pillar and just throw a Molotov, and then it'll land there. If you follow it up with a nade to the left, it's gonna do a fuck ton of damage. Because what's gonna happen is throw the Molotov. Oops, I hit the wood. You throw the Molotov and then you throw a grenade like that. Assuming the Molotov lands, what'll happen is they're running from the Molotov and they'll get ticked really hard with the grenade. It's at least another thing I didn't think about. The nades, I don't like HE grenades at all. I don't think they're easy to use effectively. They're very good if you know exactly when someone is going to be somewhere. So that's going to be times where, you know, if someone is defusing the bomb, it's the start of the round and you're expecting a push. You're nading a common angle. Like I said, if you're expecting someone to be at Toxic and holding Toxic, you can just throw a grenade over and that'll hit them. But outside of that, they don't have too much use. Now in CS2, of course, you can throw a grenade on a smoke and it'll clear it out. I still don't think that is enough to justify buying, I guess, as many grenades as you did. You bought, I want to say it was maybe 8 grenades, according to Leadify. You don't need to be buying that many. I think there's many times where if you went with 2 flashes and you used those flashes, all in all, I think they're going to be a lot more effective than an HE grenade. It's only going to cost you an extra $100 to get that second flash, but I feel like it will convert a lot more as long as you're using those flashes, as long as those flashes are hitting. You'll open up space. Even if they're not hitting, you're opening up space. If they are hitting, you're maybe even converting kills off of it, and that'll just put you in a lot better spot to win a round than, getting 20 damage with a grenade if you're lucky. 'Cause, I mean, you saw at the beginning of the video when I was showing the grenade stats that no one really has a lot of grenade stats. You see it in game. Like, no one's utility damage is ever that good. Or is really good enough to really justify using grenades or purchasing grenades as much as people do. I think that's about everything I want to say. I wish I had more to say, but ultimately your rank is pretty close to mine, and so um, there's not a lot that I'm personally able to pick up on um, outside of what I've said. The last thing, can't believe I almost forgot this. I said it a couple times. Just be mindful of your teammates' money, so you know when to ask for a drop. Don't feel ashamed asking for drops. It's a team game. I know it says they have $5,000, but just think communism. It's the team that has $5,000. And pay attention to the positions of your teammates and what they're covering. There was maybe 2-3 rounds where, actually, I want to say more. There's maybe 2 rounds where your teammate was covering something and you weren't aware of it, or where your teammate was pushing up and you were covering something for them that they didn't really need covered because of where they were. Um, yeah, I officially, that's the last thing I want to say. I hope this helped. I hope you were able to find something useful out of this hour and a half long video. Have a good one. Take care. Best of luck.